Hey guys, welcome back to Disney Coffee and Book Talk. Today we are talking about Beauty and the Beast live action version. This came out in 2017. My son was 4, and I was working at Disney, the 777 location, if you know, you know, aka Times Square. Yes, the largest Disney store location outside of Disney World, Disneyland. And I did take him. This was his first live action film, and he fell in love. The visuals of the costuming, the makeup, the music, just everything is beautiful, belle. Okay. Um, anyway, I was mistaken. So originally I was going to tell you like, oh my gosh, this was like on location. No, it wasn't. I'm looking this up, and it really wasn't. So the village that they start the intro into, it is based off a real place. However, they did not actually film there. This was actually a set built on the back lot of their studio in England. This entire movie was filmed in studio in England. Crazy to me. Now there are plenty of other movies that I absolutely adore. I know that they were filmed in a studio with the set design, and it's gorgeous. But you literally could have filmed in a medieval French village. They do actually exist. And this village was based off or inspired by Conquise, which is in the south of France. It's a very real village that you can go visit. But this whole thing, all set design. All set design. Crazy, isn't it? The rest of all of this was at Sharperton Studios in England. I just want to shout out to them. They did a fantastic job. Now, if you guys don't know, Belle, even in this film, we do know that she is French, right? She is from France. In the 1991 animated film, we only know her from this small village. In this live action, we kind of know that she is more from Paris originally, and then she moved. This makes more sense to Easter eggs that came in later movies like Aladdin and The Hunchback of Notre Dame, where we see her walking, or we see bits and pieces of there's like other Easter eggs. So it kind of makes sense that they made this to have more of a backstory and not a complete copy of the animated film. Now, I don't hate that. I think it made more sense. It made more sense why the villagers didn't know about the castle. It made more sense that there was connections and like there's forgetting, right? It just made more sense. It answered a lot of questions. But I also want to note, I find this really funny because Belle is supposed to be French. Emma Watson is English. No hate to her. I love her as an actress. But she actually was born in France and then grew up English. And now playing a French character. Crazy to me. But for me, I think that Emma Watson playing Belle, we do know her as the very loving Hermione, who's a book nerd. Love Hermione, by the way. Hate Harry Potter because of J.K. Rowling, but love the character Hermione, the premise of it. To have another character that is so book loving is 100% the way that Emma Watson is in real life. That is her to a T. That's me to a T. I think we've all fallen in love with Beauty and the Beast for a couple different reasons, either because of the Beast, because of the library, because we're book nerds, all three. Look, now I will say, in this film, before we get into the deep dive, right, this particular library, although beautiful, just didn't hold as much of a candle to the animated version. I know that's crazy, but the animated version is based off a real library, right? That library is, in fact, hold on, based off, I believe it was Vienna, Austria. Yes, that is what's coming up. was actually based off the Admont Abbey Library, located in, it's in Austria. Um, it's in Admont, Austria, sorry. And it's a very real library that you can actually visit. And it is based off, this library was completed in 1776. Um, I don't know if you guys can see, but I'm going to try to show you. Like, this is a, whoops, sorry. This is a real library in Austria, right? You can visit it. Now, I know I'm never going to be able to, like, have a library, right, like that. Look, I'm struggling to have a library as it is. I have 6 bookcases around my house. It's crazy. Anyway, I would be happy with a she shed, a library shed at this point. To have a personal library like that. This also reminds me of the library, this one in this movie, reminds me or more of the library in the Biltmore Estate in Asheville, North Carolina. I love that. Oh my gosh, that estate is gorgeous to begin with, but that library, like, I would accept that library. Granted, I'd accept just a room in a house with a library. And I think most of us would. But compared to the animated version, I just felt like it lacked a lot of those elemental features that made us fall in love with that library. So that is really where I would say is the most disappointing part. Otherwise, I loved it. I love the film. I know not everyone loves live action films, especially when it's a Disney remake. They could be hit and miss. I really like this one. But there are a lot of Easter eggs, so let's get to it. So Disney actually changed the intro, so we actually see Beauty and the Beast castle before it gets started. We are at the entrance, and we have the rose. So, the prince gets cursed, and we see he's really mad, so he slashes it. We have the rose is now in this beautiful bell container, and we are starting with the movie. So we have the set, right? It's supposed to be based off medieval France, and we have these people in town, and they're like, this guy's like, I don't remember what's going on. That is because we'll see later on who his wife is. His wife got cursed into one of the objects that's up at the castle. So they're like, what castle? What's going on? They don't remember because technically the curse also affects them too. So she's actually referencing Romeo and Juliet from Shakespeare, and Verona was Italy. So let's keep in mind that she doesn't have a lot of access to books as of in this part of the movie, but what she does little have is worldly. So they call her a funny girl. There are several things to this. Number one, girls were not allowed to be educated. This comes back into play when Belle is trying to educate a little girl on how to read, but also even in the original in 1991, right, when it was released, when they were making Beauty and the Beast, they put Belle in blue. Blue was not a very popular color back then because it was expensive, but they did it so that she would stand out from everyone else, right? They did that purposefully. Now, the book was never confirmed in the animated film, but as we saw in Belle's Magical World, she does read Cinderella. So, is it in fact Cinderella that she is referencing? I would like to think so. However, she also says a prince in disguise. So could she be talking about her own story or Aladdin? You guys tell me down in the comments. I thought this was funny because Gaston says, je ne sais quoi. And LeFou's like, huh, like, I don't know, like what? The whole thing about je ne sais quoi, if you actually speak French, it means I don't know. So I just always thought this line was really funny to me. So rewatching this, I at first thought that these windmills were very like Netherlands. We did see them in like parts of England. We do actually end up seeing that there were in France as well. They are inspired by, I think, the Netherlands. But we also have her father, Maurice, building based off what happened in Paris and where they lived. Now, as Belle is walking around the studio and we get more of a shot, you do see some Easter eggs to other movies. We have a giraffe, we have some other things on his work table. Let me know what you think they're related to. I want to hear your thoughts. And here's a better glimpse of inside the windmill, and this was based off the windmill that Maurice, his wife, and Belle lived in before they moved to this little village. So, as I was saying earlier, that Belle was teaching this little girl to read, right, using phonetics and sight words, and the people got upset, right, because young girls were not educated and they weren't supposed to be reading, and they barely dealt with her to begin with, but God dare she say, oh my gosh, other children, other people should be able to read, created a disaster for her. So, of course, we have Agatha, who's supposed to be the hag, who's supposed to be, we'll later see the enchantress, a witch, mind you, Agatha spelled a little bit differently in Marvel. Not like the Marvel comics haven't been around. Now, I'm not saying they're inspired by, but kind of interesting that they have similar names and are both witches. Again, coincidence? Maybe. I don't think it's necessarily an Easter egg, but want to throw out the coincidence. What are your thoughts? We also have people, even in the castle, who can speak other languages like Spanish, so clearly, around. But for everyone who doesn't realize, LeFou was always giving queer. And now, don't get me wrong, I love LeFou. I think he's hilarious. I think he's way smarter than Gaston. He actually cared about other people outside of Gaston. But I also never realized until this exact scene when I was rewatching this that it was Gaston's tavern. Like, not only is his name on it, it explains why he's like, I use antlers in all my decorating, and like you see antlers. Wow, that explained way more, and also explains why Disney World has Gaston's Tavern. Okay, sorry. Was I the only one that just realized that? Okay, I took this thinking that I could zoom in and actually read the words. I can't read any of it. It's all like very, very small. But Beauty and the Beast is known for their food, right? Outside of what I was just talking about, Gaston's Tavern in Disney World, there is also a restaurant for Beauty and the Beast, and like they have um, uh, so many different foods from the movie, but you can also make this stuff at home. So if you do follow me, I will be making more foods, but you can also go check out my website, disneycoffeeandbooktalk.com, where I do have recipes related to also if you're homeschooling with me and using my homeschool Disney curricula. I do, and also I have like an actual lesson based off the separate lessons. So I do have a Beauty and the Beast lesson for the movie nights. I do also have recipes there. So just throwing that out. We're going to be doing more eventually. I just got to get through a bunch of stuff first, but I think we will have a blast doing that. What are your thoughts? So they were doing, soup du jour, blah, 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 ask the dishes. Okay. Anyway, at this very ending, there is a building like behind Lumiere, and it looks like the Taj Mahal a little bit. Anyway, Beast gets her, and Belle is, what do you call it? Getting him back to health, and they reference Shakespeare again. They also end up referencing other things like King Arthur. Anyway, they end up taking like a trip to the past, and from the window, they are, let me rephrase that. They are now in the windmill that Belle was first born in, and you could see Notre Dame, aka the same Notre Dame that can be seen in several other movies, including the one where Quasimodo from The Hunchback of Notre Dame lived in. Yeah, that Notre Dame. And there's other mentions. They find out that Belle's mom was dying of the Black Plague, and she told her husband Maurice to leave with the baby so that they don't get sick and then die, because the Black Plague was really, really bad, right? Killed a lot of people. So in this moment, LeFou gets dumped on by Snow. I think it was in the original one as well, but I also find that this part was an Easter egg to Olaf, who is also voiced by Josh Gad. Josh Gad plays LeFou in this movie, just saying. So they're now at the castle, things happened, and LeFou is jumped on by Mistro, and he goes, Zora, old friend, and I think that kind of like realized that LeFou is like, wait a minute, like, I'm on the wrong side, so he actually starts fighting alongside the people in the castle. Then you have these three, which kind of reminds me of the three friends from Mulan. And then they are turned into girls. But this particular guy, right, was like, wait a minute, I feel beautiful, right? Then we have reference to the fat lady singing. It's not over till the fat lady sings, and here she comes. And then we see Agatha helps restore the beast into his human form. We have Belle. They get married. And it's a beautiful ending. And we do have everyone reuniting with the villagers, right? At the wedding, we have the guy that was like happy to be in women's clothing, whether you want to call him trans or drag, whatever, I don't really care. He's dancing with LeFou. This is where people really, really got upset. But honestly, such a cute little quick scene. It just shows that love is love. Like, who cares who you love as long as it's legal, right? Obviously, you know, on that sense. But everyone is over the age of 25, so who cares, right? Like, let them be. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Let me know what your favorite part of Beauty and the Beast live action. Oh, I also didn't mention that this film got a lot of hate back when it was coming out because of its LGBTQ representation. There really wasn't like, oh my gosh, we have two guys dancing. Like, that's like what you're upset about, and that was a very small clip. I would say be more upset about LeFou, but and by the way, LeFou was one of the guys that was dancing. You guys act like being gay is a sin and like never around and it's new. It's not. First of all, it's not a sin, but also being gay is very natural. Like, not everyone is straight, and so to have a little bit of representation, hey, I'm all for it. LeFou in this movie is almost exactly like LeFou in the animated film, which again came out in 1991. LGBTQ existed, okay? And LeFou very much was madly in love with Gaston, even that. So, still one of my favorite films. Okay. Anyway, great time because it is Pride Month. I hope you guys enjoy. I hope you guys, if you guys have gone to your Pride parade in your area or you plan on going, I hope you enjoy. Be safe. Love you all. And I'll see you guys next time.